and welcome to Faith Night Friday. How is everybody doing today? My battery is on low, so I don't know really if you want to like, comment, or subscribe. Just go ahead because like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be on here for 10 minutes or 15, but if I don't say goodbye, then I'm just glad you caught me and thanks for hopping on. But we are already finished with 1 Samuel, so we are done, totally done. So we are going on to the second book of Samuel, so that's where we are at. And I'm just going to jump in and I'm just going to read because I don't want to leave you guys hanging. So we are on 2 Samuel. I don't know what I have here. The 2 Samuel. I'm just going to write 2 Samuel, and then I'm just going to start putting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so we're just going to start the introductions of it, okay? So in 2 Samuel, the sequel to the 1 Samuel is the history of David's reign as king. First over Judah in the south, chapters 1 through 4, and then over the whole nation, including Israel in the north, chapters 5 to 24. It is a vivid account of how David, in order to extend the kingdom and consolidate his position, had to struggle with enemies within the nation as well as with foreign powers. David is shown to be a man of deep faith and devotion to God, and one who was able to win the loyalty of his people. Yet, he is also shown as being sometimes ruthless and willing to commit terrible sins to serve his own desires and ambitions. But when he is confronted with his sins by the Lord's prophet, Nathan, he confesses them and accepts the punishment that God sends. The life and achievements of David impressed the people of Israel so much that in later times of national distress, when they longed for another king, it was one who would be a son of David, that is, a descendant of David who would be like him. So we're entering, of course, in chapter 31, in 1 Samuel 31, we were talking about the death of Saul and his sons. This is when David learns of Saul's death. After Saul's death, David came back from his victory over the Amalekites and stayed in Ziklag for 2 days. The next day, a young man arrived from Saul's camp to show his grief, and he had torn his clothes and put dirt on his head. He went to David and bowed down to the ground in respect. David asked him, "Where have you come from?" I have escaped from the Israelites' camp," he answered. "Tell me what happened," David said. "Our army ran away from battle," he replied, "and many of our men were killed. Saul and his son Jonathan were also killed." "How do you know that Saul, make sure, and Jonathan are dead?" David asked him. He answered, "I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, and I saw that Saul was leaning on his spear, and that the chariots and horsemen of the enemy were closing in on him. Then he turned around, saw me, and called to me. I answered, 'Yes, sir.' He asked who was I, who I was, and I told him that I was an Amalekite. Then he said, 'Come here and kill me. I have been badly wounded and I am about to die.' So when I went up to him and killed him, because I knew that he would die anyway as soon as he fell. Then I took the crown from his head and the bracelets from his arm, and I have brought them to you, sir." David tore his clothes in sorrow, and all his men did the same. They grieved and mourned and fasted until evening for Saul and Jonathan and for Israel, the people of the Lord, because so many had been killed in battle. David asked the young man who had brought him the news, "Where are you from?" He answered, "I am an Amalekite, but I live in your country." David asked him, David asked him, "Who is that you dared kill the Lord's chosen king?" Then David called one of his men and said, "Kill him." The man struck the Amalekite and killed him. And David said to the Amalekite, "You brought this on yourself. You condemned yourself when you confessed that you killed the one whom the Lord chose to be king." But see, I don't understand that, because Saul kind of like killed himself. He's the one who first of all, well, of course, David doesn't know this, but Saul was the one who wanted the Amalekite to kill him. And then Saul ended up throwing himself on his own spear. And then this guy, instead of, I would have told the truth. I would have said, no, well, he killed himself, literally. You know, he put the spear, and he didn't want to gloat about who was going to kill him, so he killed himself. But the Amalekite ended up saying that he did it, and because of that same reason, that's why I think David killed him. David's lament for Saul and Jonathan. David saying this lament for Saul and his son Jonathan in order it to be taught to the people of Judah. It is recorded in the book of Jashar. On the hills of Israel, for our leaders are dead. The bravest of our soldiers have fallen. Do not announce it to Gath or in the streets of Ashkelon. Do not make the women of Philistia glad. Do not let the daughters of pagans rejoice. May no rain or dew fall on Gilboa's hills. May its fields be always barren. For the shields of the brave lie there in disgrace. The shield of Saul is no longer polished with oil. Jonathan's bow was deadly. The sword of Saul was merciless, striking down the mighty, killing the enemy. Saul and Jonathan, so wonderful and dear, together in life, together in death, swifter than eagles, stronger than lions. Women of Israel mourn for Saul. He clothed you in rich scarlet dresses and adorned you with jewels and gold. The brave soldiers have fallen. They were killed in battle. Jonathan lies dead in the hills. I grieve for you, my brother Jonathan. How dear you were to me. How wonderful was your love for me. Better even that than the love of women. The brave soldiers have fallen, their weapons abandoned and useless. So that is the end of 2 Samuel chapter 1. So let's hear what, since my camera is not blinking, hopefully we can read a little bit what's going on in 2 Samuel. So David, the king of the central figure in this book that records his national victories, in chapters 1 and 10, and his personal defeats, the turning point of his sin of adultery, the tragic consequences of which afflicted both his family and the nation. David confessed his sins, submitted to God's discipline, and spent the closing years of his reign preparing for the battle of the temple. Excuse me. This book is an exposition of Proverbs. So in 2 Samuel chapter 1, Saul began his career standing, but he closed his career falling. Therefore, let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. Natural abilities and great opportunities do not guarantee success. Saul was head and shoulders above everybody else, but he was not heart and soul yielded to God. Robert Murray McChaney said, "It is not great talents God blesses so much as great likeness to Jesus." The Amalekite tried to deceive David and win his favor. That's what happened. For his account contradicts the inspired record. He did not know David. Saul was not David's enemy, so David could not rejoice over Israel's inglorious defeat. Do you have enemies who I can't really see with these I can't really see with these glasses, whose sorrows make you happy? If you do, carefully consider Proverbs and Romans. David said only good things about Saul and praised him as a mighty warrior. Saul's treatment of David had been diabolical, but David's treatment of Saul was always kind and considerate. Saul listened to men's lies and lost his crown. David obeyed God's word and gained a kingdom. And so that was the big difference. So that was the big difference. The Amalekite who tried to win favor, like I said, I would have been, no, come here. You're not going over there. Instead of him, trying to find favor and, be like, okay, this is what really happened. But because he didn't know David and he wanted to say, oh, well, yeah, Saul was your enemy. I killed him, hooray for me. But because the Amalekite didn't know how he felt about Saul, and especially Jonathan, he was like, no, you just killed the king that God appointed, so, what were you thinking? So that's why he ended up killing the Amalekite. So it's always good when you're reading anything, always have a backup commentary if it's in any kind of books, because this way, when you're reading something from any kind of chapters in the Bible and you're not really sure what it's trying to tell you or what it's trying to share with you, usually commentaries help a lot because they open up a vast of information that will tell you, okay, well, this is why this happened and that's why that happened. And then it kind of clicks in your head like, oh, that's what went down. So it's always, even if you have I just have this one, but even if you have several commentaries, I wouldn't go no more than 2 really, because they kind of give you the same thing, but I wouldn't go no more than that. I really didn't do much this week as keeping to my devotionals. I mean, I did try. I think I already missed maybe seven days. Last month, I ended up missing 10 days. But I saw it in my my waiting or my quiet time journal that I had gone all the way from 10 all the way down to the end of the month. This month, I did miss a lot of days, but I could see some days they weren't able to be avoided. It just happens. But I'm trying to stay in track. But I also notice that when I'm not in the Word and I'm not spiritually connected, when I'm trying to do my devotions, I'm not in the spiritual realm and I'm not really feeling or hearing anything. And I feel bad because of that, I have nothing to share with you. And since I've been being in a worldly sense, worldly sense, I haven't been able to share anything with you. And hopefully next week, I'll be able to. Okay, guys, now it's blinking. I gotta go. Thank you again for joining me, and we'll see you next time on Faith Night Friday. Bye-bye.